It's been a very funny last couple of months. I would even argue a last couple of years. I mean, everything going on with the pandemic and coronavirus and working from home and different sort of things we've picked up with different people on our energies and states and all these different stuff. And it's a lot to take in. It's a lot to really process and internalize. But it gets me thinking about relationships that we build and have fostered during this time, especially within the working conditions or working arena. And so today I want to focus on leadership and culture that we need to adopt going forward. It's very important that we understand this because there needs to be an etiquette, as my friend says, in terms of how we approach our relationships and our work and our lives. And so I want to start off with the first thing. We need empathetic leaders, okay? People who can really understand different people's situations and act in accordance to that. Now, really and truly, that links back to this whole idea of emotional intelligence. So you can check out this video to find out more about it. But essentially, emotional intelligence says that you need to have a certain level of self-awareness, self-regulation or management, motivation, also relationship management and relationship awareness as well. But it feels as though during this time, it's very difficult for people to have that. People have felt stressy. People have given people attitudes. People have felt like they can't really be themselves because there isn't that psychological safety that's been set up from these leaders in order for there to be the right level of empathy. I mean, as of time of making this video, there are people who have got long COVID, feeling lethargic, tired, lack of movement. There may be certain stresses that are happening in their lives financially. And so they may be bringing that out in terms of the workforce. And so we have to be very understanding as individuals. We have to clearly communicate different things and we have to respect the position that people are in. Many people are working longer hours working from home. Many people aren't comfortable coming into the office. Many people do go into the office, but they don't have any other choice. Some people like it, some people don't. There's a mixed bag about it. What I'm saying is that you need to be versatile as an empathetic leader to understand how to respond and communicate to your audience. Your audience being the people that you are serving as a leader. It's almost servant leadership in many respects. And so think about how you can be more empathetic and understanding towards those who are helping you in terms of your vision as a leader. And so linked to that is that etiquette that I spoke about before. How we interact with each other is very, very important. In addition to being realistic about expectations. We have to understand that there is a lethargy or there are so many things that we're doing right now trying to fix, not only our lives, but the economy. I'm sure you've spoken to different people and they're saying, oh, it's crazy busy. And you think your busy is crazy, but everyone's going through a crazy busy. And so be realistic about expectations. Don't really try to expect the world when people are giving you the world already. So there has to be an appreciation, but the right level of expectation when it comes to delivery within the workspace. The second thing is being an authentic leader. Okay, so linked to empathetic leadership and servant leadership, there's authentic leadership. And this is really being a person who is comfortable in their skin, comfortable in their shoes, and being themselves, not trying to put on some sort of facade, not using power dynamics or egos to display their stuff in order to get stuff done or be seen in a certain light. It's not about being seen in a necessary light. It's about being yourself so you can go about doing your business effectively. When you are authentic as a leader, you're more trusted. You build better relationships. There's better rapport. People are able to be vulnerable within you. You're creating this right level of psychological safety where there's the right level of challenge and support because you're pushing but also supporting your workforce in order for them to be effective. This is not just for people in senior management positions. This is for everyone. But of course, I'm speaking to those senior leaders even more so. So be authentic. Don't be afraid to be corrected as a leader. Because this is your form of feedback. This is how you improve. How else are you going to improve? Do you think your senior leader is going to improve you? Not necessarily, because as you climb up the ladder, there are so many more things that you're getting. And so the feedback that you get from those, dare I say, hierarchically beneath you, then that is impetus and understand how you can improve as a person, potentially at least anyway. So don't be afraid to be corrected. And if somebody does get something wrong, Don't be afraid to coach them through to help them understand how they can be better. Not torment them or disregard them, but coach or mentor them. We need coaches and mentors within the leadership space in order for people to be effective. Some people push that aside like it's some fanciful thing. It's not. It works. You can do it too. People do it all the time. But you just need to be yourself first so people can see your vulnerabilities. Okay, I'm not saying display all your stuff, but I'm just saying be yourself. You can still have a professional etiquette, but be yourself at the same time. And that means sticking to a set code of values, i.e. things that are important to you, so that people can actually build that rapport and relationship with you as well. So maybe that's a missing formula that you haven't, cottoned onto. The next thing is to have great communication. There are so many things that are said where, one leader says, go ahead and do this. And there aren't really clear instruction, or there isn't clarity, or there isn't enough information to go and do that stuff. So great communication is pivotal. And I think everywhere that I've gone within my sort of a 11, 12, 13, 14 years campaign within the career sort of space is that communication is always overlooked in some way, shape and form. And so great communication from a leader's point of view is number one, being clear about the vision and purpose. And if you're not clear about it, then be clear that you're not clear. Okay. Sometimes if we're in complex and ambiguous situations, we need to just state the facts. State this is what it is. This is what we know. What we're trying to do. So great communication is important from that standpoint. Number two, based on what you don't know and what you know, be clear about your expectations. Okay. Really important one, because if I understand your accountabilities, if I understand your responsibilities, if I understand what you're trying to do, what you should be doing within this role, then it gives me an idea in terms of what those, different boundaries look like, so to speak. So be very clear about what those different accountabilities and responsibilities look like. The other thing I'd say about that is to be clear about how you communicate change. Okay. Now, there are going to be different levels to this. There's going to be a select few of maybe SLT, so senior leadership team members who know about that change first. But you need to be transparent in terms of the pecking order. You need to be able to do that, because if people find out information before they should know information, or if they feel like they should have known earlier, this will cause problems in terms of group dynamics. This will cause problems in terms of maybe even effectiveness going forward. So that's another thing you need to bear in mind. Communicate change when change is coming. And the other thing I want to say about that is don't make people feel inadequate. Okay. Psychological safety is so important. What psychological safety is basically saying you're creating an environment, you're setting the conditions, you're creating a space that enables people to feel like they can say what they need to say, or want to say at least. They don't feel like hesitant or like, I'm not sure. No, they can say what they need to say freely. Okay. With the right level of etiquette or whatever that is, if they feel they need to go down that route. And so that comes with support. So encouraging them, coaching them, opening them up in order to say what they need to say and do what they need to do and have what they need to have. But two, the right level of challenge where you're allowing them to be creative, innovative, and all these different things that pushes the boundaries in a constructive way. And so creating psychological safety is paramount in order for you to be effective. And so this comes down to approach, how you say things and what you say. Language is very, very important. If we try to introject things into people, i.e. you should have done this, why didn't you do that? Using why and should have or should of are dangerous words. You could use the words perhaps, potentially, possibly, maybe. Can I suggest? Different ways of looking at it. And so language when it comes to communication is paramount. The fourth thing is being collaborative by nature. Okay, very important, because I know many of us in different remote working relationships, whether that's in the government or private sector or public sector, wherever it may be, have set up this silo working nature. Okay, I don't know if it's because we got so much to do, or people just want to stay in their cubby holes and nobody really knows what they're doing and all that. There are various reasons why this is happening, but there needs to be an open and transparent collaborative nature to things, because it allows there to be a clear sort of cohesiveness in terms of what needs to be done. How can we develop our strategy? How can we develop our planning? What is being done right now? That is very important. And so as a leader, in terms of developing culture, think of ways in which you can be more collaborative. This may be doing sort of open cafe shop style things, or workshops, or, weekly cadences of meetings or daily stand-ups. There are all different ways in which we can do this. And I know we're doing this stuff already, but sometimes we take this for granted. Sometimes it just becomes an update or a report. How can you actually be collaborative? How can you actually set up a session where, okay, cool, this is what problem X is. This is how we're constructively going to go through it using a methodology. And thereby we're going to, spend this time to come up with this type of outcome. You may not know exactly what the outcome is, but this is the type of outcome you want. So that collaborative setup is different to just having, let's say, a sprint or a daily roundup, a stand-up, and all these other things that we may have. Just think creatively in terms of collaboration, because that time you spend, even though you may feel like it's a waste of time, may free up some time because now everyone's on a similar page. I think the additional message to add to that is we need time to think. I think during this time, it's been about delivery, but there's been no time to think. If you don't have to go to a meeting, don't go to a meeting. But really use that time to think, organize, strategize, plan, etc., so that you can deliver at a quality standard. Very important thing to say. Before I carry on, it'd be great to understand and know what you think is fundamentally important to improve the leadership and culture within a workspace in this current day and age. Leave your comments below. The fifth thing is to say, embrace remote working and agile working. Okay. Now, what's the difference between the two? So remote working is working from home or from a location that isn't the workspace, bearing in mind that it falls in lines with policy. Okay. So there are some organizations that say you can't work abroad from the home location of that organization. There's also agile working, which is, I guess it comes down to a similar thing. It's how you work, where you work, the sort of like flexibility in terms of the approach to work, as long as you deliver. There's also flexible working as well, which really allows you to, do a certain amount of hours each day, but it doesn't really matter like when you start, when you finish, etc., as long as you do those hours. Now, depending on if you have some sort of business operation set up or BAU set up, etc., flexible working may not be a thing for you. Maybe there needs to be a range. Maybe you say, okay, people can or should start work between 8 and 10 in the morning and finish anywhere between 4 and 6 in the afternoon. And that way it covers that range. Okay, maybe that's what it is. Maybe you have a flexible approach towards holidays, not necessarily the number of days, but more so to do with when people can take holidays, regardless of, crisis points, or maybe you're more transparent in terms of when people should book leave and all of these different things. I'm saying this to say, have an open mind. Don't stick in this prehistoric mindset of it needs to be like this, that, and that. The new way to do things, at least in the public sector, because we're catching up, is to have more of a startup mentality, have more of an entrepreneurial mentality. Very important if you want to, get the results that you need to get. We need to accommodate people in this current climate. The sixth thing I'll say is to use clear methodologies. This may be down to the type of project management methodologies you use, the type of implementation methodologies that you use, the type of organization, how you structure sort of like different folders, etc. Have a methodology. I know we're talking about being in this lean, agile space, but it doesn't negate having methodologies. They're still very important. Programmatic sort of like reporting or project methodology is still important when it comes to delivering these sort of lean or agile style projects, programs, work streams, or whatever it may be. So think about what that looks like. Think about when you're developing your organization or your structure, what sort of methodologies are going to be fundamental in terms of delivery. I know we say it doesn't really matter here and there, but that detail does matter because it enables a certain level of standardization that reduces confusion. So yes, we need flex, but we need standards as well. And so it's finding that happy medium. And so you understand that happy medium by, again, doing that collaborative work or speaking to people to gain feedback to understand what that should look like, because those people are on the shop floor, so to speak. The seventh thing I've really spoken about already, but is keeping clear lines of accountability and responsibility. Really fundamental. There are so many situations where people may not have a clear job description or things that may have changed, even though people reference that. If that's the case, then really ease your sort of like workforce in terms of explaining to them what your expectations are. that may help. But also allow them to talk about what they think their expectations are and what the reality has shown as well, because that gives them a clear sort of understanding in terms of how to move. That gives you an idea in terms of, does this fit in with the vision? You can work together. It sounds like a lot of stuff that needs to be done, but I will get to a point where, people can help you do this stuff as well. And conveniently, I've got to that point. So delegate, organize, and coordinate. You need to be very good at that. Now, many sort of like leaders like to take on the responsibility themselves because it's a very sort of like solopreneur mindset. But if you really want to scale, if you really want leverage, you need to trust in your workforce. But that trust can only come if you've given your workforce the ability to understand what it is that they need to do. And so delegation becomes a crucial part of that. You also need to have the ability to coordinate effectively, okay? Where people need to go, what people need to do, etc., and organize really, really well. If you've got people supporting you with this organization, be clear about how you want them to organize stuff, okay? This comes down to folders. It comes down to nomenclature. It comes down to how we write up minutes as an example. Those basic rhythmic stuff that maybe a PMO may set up or a program sort of like suite of people may help set up, whatever it may be. Just ensure, at least from a coordination and delegation standpoint, that organization is on point. And if there needs to be some sort of instructions or standard operating procedures that supports this information in video form, graphic form, written form, then so be it, as long as there's clarity. The ninth thing is to adopt strong training and introductions to people who are starting different organizations. I say this because we need to be kind to our workforce. We need to respect our workforce. And so part of that respect is giving them the right sort of start in life, so to speak, in this new arena so that they're confident to go out and do what they need to do. And they don't have any level of hesitation. They need to come across thinking, wow, that induction was really good. I really have a better understanding of what I need to be doing and what this organization is about. So training and induction is vital. The 10th thing is utilizing technology. We're in this age now, especially when the pandemic hit, etc., where technology has rapidly taken over. Technology is the thing that is going to help us with our communication and our organization and our coordination, all these different wonderful things. And so you need to have people who, number one, at the forefront of understanding what technology to use, not for just using its sake, but because it's actually going to help. But two, you actually use that technology, okay? And everybody's on board. So you need to have people who are protagonists, or should I say, influencers or champions of technology use, so that, everyone is on the same page. There's a certain level of standardization and there's a certain level of effectiveness and efficiency. We've seen this in the rise of different sort of like Kanban style or project management sort of tools. We've seen this with other stuff as well, with the rise of Microsoft Office suites and Google suites, etc. But we need to make sure that everyone's on the same page. There's a huge amount of the population who don't know how to use these tools effectively. So that training that I spoke about before is fundamental. The last thing I'll say, which is really, really important, sometimes we don't take this seriously, is having a clear sense of purpose. What is the direction? What does the vision look like? What are you aiming for? If everyone is au fait with what the purpose is, if everyone's au fait with the sense of values, what's important to the organization, if everyone knows what the vision looks like succinctly, then you're going to get people who are doing really, really well. So that's it. That's everything that I had on my mind in terms of improving leadership and culture going forward, especially when we've been hit by this invisible enemy. And so if you like videos like this, if you want to see more videos like this, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell. And as always, my friends, understand, reach, and expand. Peace.